Alright, so yesterday we talked extensively about mental health in Nigeria, how it is on the rise, and how people, are gradually coming to terms with it, which is of course quite encouraging, because during the show yesterday, going by the responses we had, it shows that a lot of people are beginning to, come to terms with the rising cases of mental health in the country. Of course, according to the World Health Organization, that about 800,000 people commit suicide annually. So that certainly is a number that we want to see reduce going forward. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show, and today definitely we will continue to advance that conversation on mental health in Nigeria. But right now, let's take this background report.
Nigeria has a mental health crisis. According to the World Health Organization, Nigeria has Africa's highest caseload of depression and ranked 15th in the world in the frequency of suicide. 1 in 4 Nigerians, or an estimated 60 million people, are suffering from some sort of mental illness, and for the past 4 years, Nigeria has seen a tremendous rise in the coverage of suicide cases across the country. From university graduates to working-class citizens, old, young, rich or poor, experts say these acts of self-harm are bound to get worse. Many suicide cases which have occurred across Nigeria recently have surprised members of the victim's family. Signs of mental depression were overlooked, and people close to the victims simply assumed they were having a bad day. From failed relationships, victims who were bullied for looking or thinking differently, to neglected family members diagnosed with terminal illness, and more. Suicidal thoughts can come to anybody, irrespective of age, level of education or religious belief. Once the psyche of a person is exposed to traumas such as loss, abuse, intense stigmatization, or severe feeling of isolation, depression is not far away. For many Nigerians, the decline in socioeconomic situation has a major impact on the state of their mental health. For the average Nigerian, the rising cost of fuel, rent, foodstuff, and transportation with no increment in income sets them on spiral financial instability, adding the pressure from debt collectors, dependent family members, pressure to keep up with their peers, and they begin to experience deep feelings of sadness, worthlessness, appetite loss, lack of interest in things they once enjoyed, withdrawal from friends, and if they don't seek help, it results in self-harm. Only about 10% of Nigerians suffering from mental illness are able to access appropriate health care. This disparity is as a result of various factors like the knowledge gap, in which people do not have appropriate information about the causes and treatment for mental illnesses. Other factors include myth and traditional beliefs, inadequate mental health facilities, and a limited number of skilled mental health professionals. There are only 8 federal neuropsychiatric hospitals in Nigeria, and only about 300 psychiatrists in a country of more than 200 million. The challenges of mental health care in Nigeria can best be managed by dedicating adequate resources to sensitization and treatment and more facilities to address the overwhelming population suffering from impaired mental health. Many people with mental health illness return to a productive and fulfilling life after seeking help. But is this country doing enough to tackle this public health emergency? Stemming the tide requires a multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary approach involving various government ministries, agencies, and departments, especially that of health, labor and employment, and social services. Experts have equally called on the government to build and equip rehab centers across the country, while measures should be put in place to improve access to mental health services through community mental health or primary health care. Stay with us on Weekend Deal as we interrogate further the issue of mental health in Nigeria.
All right, so like I promised earlier, we will read more of the messages sent, and some people are already sending. My name is Celestine from Enugu State. Government has to do something to help end poverty and improve healthcare system to meet the new age. Now, the next one says, please, I have someone who is depressed. She doesn't go to work. She doesn't do housework. She sleeps all through with various headaches. Please, what is the medication you think I can give, because she doesn't go out? She cries all day and night. Of course, you did not state where you are texting us from or your name, but one thing I can say, if you are experiencing situation like this, or someone is experiencing similar symptoms like this, it's best you seek for professional help. Anyway, I will try to engage a professional that will be joining us any moment from now. But let's quickly take this next report, which borders on why people are committing suicide in Kano State.
Almost half of Nigerian population nowadays experience depression resulting from different factors. Social problems such as poverty, lack of opportunities for self-actualization, poor standard of living, increasing individualistic style of life, student failing to pass exams, student or parent failure to pay school fees, among many others, are the sources of depression in Nigeria.
They become depressed because of hypertension. They have diabetes, and they end up with depression because they're asthmatic, and they become that sickle cell anemia. They have that. That's a biological cause.
People are left on their own. If it is poverty, it is their own palaver, it's their own problem. If it is illness, well, that's their own cup of tea. If it is collapse in business, well, it affects you only. And that lack of social support is a factor.
I've been through depression. Now, there was this time that I couldn't even just pay my school fees in this school. And then, for some reason, the school has a policy that if you don't pay your school fees, you cannot defer. It was difficult for me. At that particular time, I felt useless.
At the moment, for me, I'm depressed because I received an invitation to meet with one of my supervisors, and then I really had to come down here. And where I was, I had other things to be doing. As I'm sitting here now, I don't even know whether I'm going to see him or not.
Depression manifests through insomnia, loss of appetite, palpitation, isolation, boredom, and in worst case, attempt at suicide.
According to the WHO World Health Organization, every year, 1 million people commit suicide around the world. 800,000 to 1 million commit suicide. And most of the people who commit suicide are within the developing countries, the bulk of them. So many. Even though we have more reports from the Western world compared to what we have here. Now what they found out is suicide has a reason. And some of the reasons, depression is one of the major causes of suicide.
Experts put it that due to cultural reasons in northern Nigeria and Kano in particular, women suffer more depression than men, as they bear a lot of burden supposed to be shouldered by men.
Most of the experiences that leads people to depression, especially women in the northern part of Nigeria, some of them are divorce. We have records have shown a huge number of divorce cases, especially in northern Nigeria, that has dragged many women into depression as a result of the aftermath of the divorce.
He asked that person that, can you be able to take care of me?
Before the marriage?
Yes, before the marriage. And on your responsibility, he said, yes, I can do it. Are you sure? He said, yes. She interviewed him, are your children going to school, blah, 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 and so on. After all, when they get married, I'm telling you, he could not afford to take care of her. He's only giving her 100 naira or 200 in a day. So it becomes a problem to her. And she wanted to end that marriage, but she said, how can she end the marriage? After all, the marriage did not last long. And people would start saying, she's not patient. She didn't want to live with the first wife in one house. She had wanted a separate house. But due to the husband cannot cut her also to give her a separate house, it also becomes another problem for her. I'm telling you, that depression compiled to her. We took her to the hospital. She started taking the drugs. We took her to Dawano. She started taking the drugs. It was not long last she died.
In northwestern part of the country, whereby women were traumatized, raped, displaced, have their husband killed before their eyes, have their children killed before their eyes. And for those who are lucky to still be married and have their husbands alive and children, the husbands withdraw all the familial responsibility.
To reduce the extent of depression, social, psychological, and medical approaches must work. Possible sources of depression must be avoided.
We need to take them where they should be helped. Sometimes people come to the hospital, other people you give them drugs, others you don't. You see, there are two ways of doing this. You don't only give people drugs to treat depression, no. What do? You sit the people down and you talk to them and you change people's way of thinking, you change their behavior.
There you have it, and of course it's something that we must continue to talk about, because if we talk about this, it goes a long way in taking that burden off you. And yeah, it's just that some of the stories are quite touching. But let's take another experience, another story of someone who also experienced depression. This is put together by Susan Adamu, and when we come back, we will get to meet our guest.
Depression, when not handled properly, can lead to suicidal tendencies, thus making it the second leading cause of death among youth between the ages of 15 to 29 years old. Here is a story of a survivor.
31st December 2016, that was a Passover night, like all churches hold to herald the new year. I didn't want to go to church because I don't know, but I just felt like my world had crumbled. I couldn't just place the feelings. So I spoke to some senior person in the ministry, and he was like, you have to be here. So while there in church, everybody was singing, dancing. I was just lost. Then I remember that usually when it's 12 midnight or 12 midnight to usher in the new year, fireworks go up, everybody's shouting and screaming, hugging, oh, Happy New Year. I just stood by the window in church and I was looking, I was lost. I wasn't in the environment. So we went home, and after that, 2017 started. I wasn't myself. I was having some kind of symptoms I couldn't understand. So I called a doctor friend. I said, I'm feeling some kind of way and I don't know what's happening. And I explained the symptoms to him. So he said, all right, that I think what is happening to you is more of a cardio issue. I went to meet a cardiologist and we got talking. So she was diagnosing, asking me everything, but we couldn't find the cause. So she said, okay, you know what, we're going to run a lot of heart tests on you. I did the ECG, all of them. I did all the tests. We did in different places. It was like, let's discover if there's something particularly wrong with your heart. We did all of the tests and it came out like I'm normal. what's happening around you? And I remember if there's one word I kept saying, it was, I am not happy. My cardiologist got me to say psychologist, and while he was trying to clerk me to profile whatever is happening to me, he also went overboard. So instead of helping the situation, he started so he was already judging me, and that didn't go well. By the end of my session with that guy, I was screaming out my life and crying. And my cardiologist had I'm sorry, I put you through that. I thought he was well seasoned in this case. I kept seeing other psychologists, so it wasn't like I just left there and said I wouldn't treat again, because I was also very, very, very determined to know what is happening to me. It was strange.
Okay, so that was the measures.
Yes, so I sought help from professionals. I researched on it myself, and I could place my symptoms. But okay, while we were also doing this, I began to have lots of panic attack. At this point, I was now placed on antidepressants, because after all the back and forth, the diagnosis, it was discovered she's having depression and anxiety disorder. So I started taking that. I was recovering, but it made me recall a lot. The sound of noise puts me off. So my daughters will come into the room and tiptoe. I remember my last daughter, she would want to pick their things from their room, and she would say, Mommy's sleeping, let's not wake Mommy. While I lived there, I was living, but in that room, I was more with dead people. I had lost my parents, both parents. My dad has been gone for 28 years. My mom has been gone for 6 years. But at that point in time, I was living with them. So while alive, I was communicating more with the dead than the living. My dad, I would see my dad come, my dad and my mom, I'll see them carry me out, we'll do evangelism. I was more happy with them than the people I'm living with. So I wouldn't talk to anybody. I was practically I'd gone numb. I eat, take my drugs to knock off myself. He's asking me, so it's like we're taking a walk, and he's asking me, what have you done with your life so far? I was trying to give account of my life so far to him. Close to the gate, he paused, and he asked me, is there not more you could do? And I looked at him, and I said, I can't do more. So probably if I walked into that gate, that would have been me gone or whatever. So I remember one of those nights, I kept seeing corpses around the house, and I'm like, this is going to take my life. And it was like, you're going to die today. So I think that also, maybe God was just keeping me to be alive today, to be able to speak to the world about my story, to be able to send hope to other people, because I remember one of those nights, it was too much, and I called my elder sister to make my funeral arrangements. And my elder sister was like, bad? She's like, you want to die? I said, if I die, let this happen. And so I dropped the call, and she called my husband. It's like, what is happening? So at that point, I had felt that way. And then I think I was rushed to the hospital again. They gave me a medication I reacted to. And I had that medication. So that's when I said suicide ideations came in. I had that medication that if at some point I'm unable to bear it, then I would take that medication, and because I know that if one tablet of it could affect me this much, an overdose of it would take me away. So this is me saying I may not have immediately planned for suicide, but I had ideations of suicide. I was ready. So suicide was an option for me at some point. I could do it, but I didn't do it. I didn't attempt it, but it was an option.
Instead of ruminating other feelings of regret, focus on practicing self-acceptance. Forgive yourself and focus on what you can learn from the mistakes.
Well, that was quite touching, and I know there are a whole lot of people who have gone several experiences, who have experienced a lot vis-a-vis mental health, which leads to depression and to suicidal thoughts. Thank God she survived, and I'm sure if she can do it, if you are experiencing same, you can do it as well. It shows that with love, medication, and professional help, we can overcome. And let's quickly introduce our first guest who just joined us in the studio. He is the first Lieutenant Oke Ochibu, a U.S. Army veteran, also the executive director, One Tribe Africa Collective Foundation. You are welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much.
That story was quite touching. What are your thoughts?
These things are heavy when you listen to them, and when it happens to someone that is close to you or to yourself, it takes on a different life of its own. When it hits home, that is when you begin to understand that the people who go through these experiences with mental health or mental illness, it's not because they want to, it's because this is their reality.
Some say that if you are in these situations, it's not enough to just start having positive thoughts.
No.
Because it's very, very difficult, given the fact that you're living a certain difficult reality. Now, this next person says, I am Joshua in Keruanwe from Akwa Ibom. Please, what can we do about people we notice they are depressed, but they refuse to accept our help, claiming to be fine? Is it proper to use force and help them?
Force is a very harsh, strong term in my opinion. It is important to persuade them, strongly persuade them, encourage them. You catch bees with honey. So if you can attract their interest, if you can appeal to their self-interest in order to get them the help they need, that will be a better way to go rather than forcing.
Well, it's certainly not good to force situations like that. Anyway, let's take this next report put together by Umma, and it's also about why people are, getting depressed in Nigeria. We know some of them already in the studio, but let's find out more.
Poverty, hunger. Poverty and hunger. When there's poverty, hunger, frustration come. That's why you see so many people hanging themselves, doing all kind of nonsense things. Sometimes when I see some young ladies, even some, you can see some average woman like me, like they do some nonsense. Sometimes like this, so if I want to angry with them, I think again, maybe on one situation, one condition, it's poverty. It's poverty is leading that depression. I can go now.
The means of livelihood of most of, I think, let me say 85% of the populace, their means of livelihood is down. The expectation is high, particularly on government. People place more expectation on government than to look for the little they can pull from the either farming, either doing minor business, learning handwork. At least people just do away with that aspect.
Problem shared is half solved. No matter how small or big a person is, somebody is there to listen to you. It is only where you pour it out, it mustn't be in a very violent manner, no. It must be in a place whereby you are disposed and you see that somebody is ready to listen to you. The person you're sharing that particular situation with might not be the person that provides the solution to you. But funny enough, the person might be able to know who can be able to help you.
High cost of living, lack of money, school fees for parents, so many hunger, terrorism, kidnapping. People are living in fear. What we need is God, and God will help us in this country. Amen.
Other things can also be the reason why someone will be depressed. For instance, if you're sick, maybe like a terminal disease or something, you could go into depression. Or if you're totally disappointed, maybe you had high hopes on yourself or about something and it doesn't happen, you can get depressed too.
No, it's never an option. The option is that look for something doing, so that at least you can cater for yourself. You should be able to pay your bills, and once you can be able to pay your bills, then your heart, your sense of contentment, and your soul will be consoled. And when you have consoled by your soul, then you'll be able, that depression will went away from you.
It's not an option. If you kill yourself, you are going to hellfire. You will not see God. Suicide is not an option. I tell everybody, whether young or old, don't kill yourself. Just pray and wait on God. That God will bring you to this world. There's an African proverb that says that God will open this mouth. If you don't see what enter mouth, they will not break. Or that's a proverb. So look unto God. Don't kill yourself. If you kill yourself, you will not see God. Though. You suffer on the earth again, suffer in heaven. The heaven is real and hellfire is real. So don't kill yourself. I'll never kill myself and I don't advise anybody. But there's poverty. There's poverty in this country, there's difficulty. People are struggle to eat. Hunger. May the government do something so that people, especially unemployment, you see plenty graduates. Somebody graduated from university, 8 years, 10 years, no job. Eh? And if they don't get patient, that's why I see them killing themselves. Taking sniper, be whatever they call. Can I go now?
Well, suicide definitely cannot or should not be an option, and of course you just need to realize that you need help, and of course it's good to talk to people, but when you talk to people, make sure they are the right people to talk to. Seek professional help. It's very important to overcoming mental health. Now we still have our guests with us in the studio. Of course, it still boils down to, you know, the inability to fulfill some basic, you know, needs of life, and of course, you know, it sends this negative signal to your brain, and of course you feel depressed, you feel isolated, you feel failure and guilt at some point. Now, going forward, what should we begin to do to help people out of, you know, this mental health challenge?
Primary problems. I was recently in East Africa, and we went to reach out to a community of addicts, substance abuse, alcohol, and one of the gentlemen who was stoned out of his mind gave the most classic answer that none of us thought about, and he said primary problems. Our problems are primary problems.
Thank you very much for sharing your thought with us. We've been speaking with Oke Chibu. He's a U.S. Army veteran and also the executive director, One Tribe Africa Collective Foundation. Thank you for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right, we go on a break, and after that we have someone I'm sure you will love to meet. Thank you for staying with us. We are still looking at the issue of mental health in Nigeria, and of course the number of young people committing suicide is on the increase. So I'm not sure it's something that we want to experience in Nigeria, but let's take this next report put together by NTA Channel 10, and after that you get to meet our next guest.
At some point in our lives, we experience sadness, loss of interest, lack of pleasure, heartbreaks, failure, disappointment, amongst others. For most people, these experiences are completely normal response to unpleasant situations, but to others, stressful events like high poverty rate, financial difficulties, romantic relationships, failure, and social adversity associated with negative feelings are usually painful and overwhelming, but as time goes by, they become less intense and disappear. But if these feelings are persistent, they may affect one's life substantially and result in depression that makes the victim to take radical decisions that result to suicide. Why are people resorting to committing suicide? Is suicide a solution to the problem?
Suicide is never a solution to any problem. If an individual is depressed and is not fully or well managed, it gravitates into, it generates into thought, wrong thought, negative thought of my life is not useful, I'm not loved, I'm not needed. Can I even just end the whole thing? Let me just end it all so that I can rest.
Depression can affect anyone, no matter their age, gender, or circumstances. Recent research reveals that young people go through depression each year in Nigeria. Why are the youth resorting to committing suicide?
That's a stage of life where you expect your aspiration, your dreams and your visions and everything you wish for in life to be actualized. So any form of failure at that point in time, and is not well managed, could swing an individual into depression.
Over the years, Nigerians are known to live together with working family system providing the needed succor and support. The well-to-do provides basic needs to members of the family, but today the reverse is the case. Everyone minds his or her business and careless about what happens, even to a sister not to talk of neighbor. In fact, individualistic spirit is the order of the day. Could this be part of the problem while people are becoming more suicidal?
Dualistic spirit, more centeredness lifestyle that we're living is one responsible for this. But with the advent of civilization, things have so much changed, and these are one of the things that foster or lead to causing suicide.
We met a young adult who shares her true life experience, although she almost lost it to depression, but came out strong.
I just discovered that any interview that I go for, they will not call me back. They will not even give me no job. I was just looking for a job up and down everywhere. Nobody to help me. The thing tired me. I was just I have BSc, I have HND, the two certificates, as if they put a logo of don't employ her there. So I started withdrawing from people. So my brother noticed. So he started coming to me and asking me that I'm withdrawing from people. And so we now recommend one coach, for one psychotherapist coach for me. The coach now started giving me some questions and counseling session per day. So that was how I got out of that depression state.
Nevertheless, there is no reason for killing oneself, especially when you resolve issues bothering your mind through sharing it. According to Rabbi Nachman, sadness and depression can often be overcome by going out and doing some kindness by giving yourself to others.
That is another report there with people sharing their experiences. People keep messaging us. This one says, please, I want to appeal to the federal government of Nigeria to help a lot of people out of depression by giving out funds to family in order to make them happy. From Iyando Mary, Lagos. Of course, that is your opinion. We'll take more messages after we must have taken this next report to put together by NTA Abuja. Still on why people are, resorting to committing suicide.
A high prevalence of depression recently reported among the Nigerian population suggests that it is a very common occurrence among people who face social adversity and difficulties, which includes high poverty rate and social stigma. Being a common mental disorder globally, depression has led to a high increase in suicidal tendencies, which results from a variety of reasons, ranging from family, marital, and childbirth issues.
I had a normal delivery. To God be the glory, but I had a severe cut through my baby, not the doctor. I got home. I just noticed that I was just not in a mood to hold my child. On the day of naming ceremony, it was very bad because my sister had to talk to me like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you breastfeed the baby? Just try. And I was like, no, I don't need the child. Just go take the child away. It got to a point I held the child, I was crying. I looked into her eyes. I was like, you're supposed to be a child that gives me joy. But right now, why do I really feel this way? I don't understand, but God should help me. It's I can't place it because it's a period whereby you can't hold your child. You don't want anything to do with the child. You don't even want to hear the child cry. Nothing, no sound. You just want to be alone all by yourself. Actually, most women go through postpartum depression after giving birth. I should rest properly. I should try and eat, but the appetite wasn't just there. Even with like giving me antibiotics, giving me some drugs to boost up my appetite, I'll take them, but I didn't have any appetite for anything. So most times what I was taking is just liquid. I'll just take water and I'm good to go.
My own case was as a result of marital crisis. I was having palpitation. I was just having as if my heart wanted to fall, and the BP was very high. So they rushed me to hospital. Doctor diagnosed that I was depressed. Depression and anxiety. And I visited psychologists, cardiologists. I've been on anxiety drugs. I've been on BP drugs. I always take sleeping tablets, yet I don't sleep. I can't sleep alone. I must have to invite someone to my house. Before I don't laugh, you hardly see joy on me. I'm always sad. I've attempted suicide. What I always hear in me is negative. You will die one day, so just better go. And as you're going, take your children, because if I go, no one will take care of them. So the last day that thought came into me, I was just looking at them and I was weeping. I gathered them, I was shouting, screaming on them. I didn't even know how I sent tests to a wrong doctor, because I had a psychologist following me up, thinking I was sending message to her. I never knew it's to another doctor. So that was when the doctor called me, and my phone was ringing, but I could not pick I didn't even know I was just out of this life. My phone was ringing, but I could not take hold of my phone. The doctor had to call my friend. That was how they came as group to my house. They met me lying down, my eyes everywhere. I locked my children. I can't even explain what was going on with me. So when they now force themselves, they say, Tina, what is it? What's going on? I just say, I want to die. I'm tired.
Some victims have overcome this monster, while others are still undergoing treatment.
Actually, to be sincere, I still struggle with it, because at times I don't want to be with the child. So when I notice I'm in that mood, I just look for my sister is around. So sometimes I'll just call, like, please, I'm not fit to be with this child today. Can you come around and help? So, but I believe with time to pass. It's just a phase.
Because of this problem I came out of, I had to open a group on Facebook, Global Honorable Ladies and Gentlemen, where I preach and talk about depression, that suicide can never and will never be the best solution.
All right. Once you feel different, and once you feel that you're probably experiencing some level of mental health, or maybe you feel some level of depression as well, it's very important to talk to someone, to seek help. It's very important going forward. Now, let's quickly introduce our next guest in the studio. She's Dr. Aishatu Yushau Armiao, medical director and also CEO of Federal Neuropsychiatrist Hospital, Barnawa, Kaduna. She's also an associate professor of psychiatry. She is an international fellow of the American Psychiatric Association. Dr. Armiao has been a very passionate advocate for mental health awareness and combating stigma against mental health. It's good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, and nice to be here this morning.
All right. Before when that report was going on, you said that in Nigeria, yes, we were dubbed as one of the happiest, people on planet, and today we've been relegated in such a way. But you say we are still happy, but people are more aware now, and that is why we are seeing more of cases of mental health. Talk to me about that.
All right. Yes, I just mentioned that to you. Initially, mental health was relegated because it was not discussed and it was more seen as a spiritual issue. But lately, it has become on the limelight where everybody is talking about mental health. Everybody is talking about people being happy or people being sad. All right. Mental health generally is part of the definition of the World Health Organization. We always knew about the physical health, but World Health Organization defined health as a state of physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being of an individual, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So therefore, mental health is a great pillar of health. So of recent, it has become very clear that we cannot live and we cannot survive without our mental health.
From what you're saying, that the World Health Organization is trying to, because of the lack of professionals to deal with this, they're trying to engage this action so that at least we bridge that gap. You talk to us about how well we have done with that in Nigeria after we must have taken this report coming from Kaduna. Of course, you're from Kaduna as well. So let's go back to Kaduna.
At one point in our lives or the other, we all have felt a feeling of sadness and are unable to enjoy the joy of living. But in some cases, a person is unable to handle day-to-day activities, thereby gradually slipping into depression, a condition suffered by over 300 million people worldwide.
It's not been easy at all. I don't even feel happy at all most of the times because nothing makes me happy at this point. I find it difficult to even sleep at night thinking of how I have made no progress in my life as nobody cares about me and it hasn't been good for me. I don't even have appetite most of the time. I tend to smile outside every time, but when I come into my room, I do nothing but weep, think of what I want to do in my life. I just wish everything could end like actually.
I was also having suicidal thoughts. I always thought of killing myself. I thought of ways to end my life, to end my suffering, to end all my problems. But I found some pages on YouTube and some videos that helped me in my struggles with depression. They helped me, they gave me motivation to live my life.
Suicide, a situation where one deliberately kills him or herself due to mental illness, of which depression accounts for 90% of such mental illnesses.
Suicide is that state of mind that the individual has lost hope. Now, when the person has lost hope, their loss of hope comes with the sense that the individual feel helpless to whatever is causing the thought of that suicide. And when the person feel helpless, it become hopeless in the process, and then taking one's life become more desirable as a solution, but it's never a solution to solve a problem. And some of ways people might carry out suicide is what we call the honor death, that people feel that it is more honorable to die than to face shame. For social reasons, people do commit suicide. What we call suicide pact, where a group of people will agree together that if so thing happen, then we'll have to die together. The way the media reportage goes may also mean a lot. For instance, maybe somebody died, and because it was reported in a certain pattern by the media, they will say, oh, that person is popular just because he killed himself or herself. Let me to do that so that at least if I die, I'll be popular. That there will be media record. After everybody will show my picture, people will know my story. Forgetting that it doesn't take just a few seconds for another thing to happen. Everybody has forgotten about that situation.
Mental health should be everybody's business. Let's cultivate the habit of looking out for one another. Whenever you notice a person continuously behaving out of character, try asking these questions. How are you? And how are you feeling right now? As these simple questions can help save a life.
Very simple questions indeed, but very critical, I must say. Now, we still have a doctor with us here in the studio. At the tail end of that report, that it's very important for you to ask people, how are you? How are you feeling today? It's good that, people relate with each other, but sometimes when you ask people, how are you? People don't want to share. They want to rather keep it, bottle it, and sometimes implosion happens. Now, how critical is it for people to communicate, when we talk about managing depression?
Okay. Communication is very important because it leads to support. If people know what is going on with you, they can support you. But unfortunately, a lot of people do not open up because of certain reasons. They don't want to be identified with mental health issue. They don't want to say what exactly they are feeling. But about more than 60% of our communication are non-verbal. You don't need to talk for a person to know what is going on in you, especially if you've been living with a person for a long time. At home, at the place of work, we should be able to be our brother's keepers. If you notice that there is something not right about your colleague or about a family member, try to find out. Even though they might say you want to be, they call it prognosing. You want to know but no. If we don't do that, you will end up regretting not talking about it. Because for now, not anybody will just pick up somebody from the street and bring to the hospital and say this person has a mental health issue. No. I don't know that person. It should be somebody that knows the person that will bring the person to me and tell me that this person is ill most often. Not the very critical mentally ill we see on the roads. That's the vagrants. A lot of people just bottle up things. But the more you bottle up, the more the problem.
Okay, I know you have attended to a lot of patients. Now, yes. Share with us, what are the common, issues, usually from their, from your diagnosis? What are those common issues that they are often confronted with? Is it loss? Is it, lack of job? Is it,
Well, a lot of people come with socioeconomic problems.
Okay.
Because we believe in a one jacket approach where everything must come from a particular source. And what I notice is that there's a lot of resilience issue. A lot of people now are not resilient.
Okay.
Not like before.
Okay.
Things happen to people and they cannot just bounce back. They keep on thinking about it over and over again. And I said, let me say one thing. Our body and our minds are connected. So there is something we call the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal gland.
I'm sure you explained this.
Yes, I will. So the hypothalamo, pituitary, adrenal axis. This is a connection between our brain and our body.
Okay.
And it mediates the stressors we have through numerous physiological changes. What does that mean? When a person is stressed up, that hypothalamus is overstimulated.
Okay.
And when that happens, it affects our metabolism, it affects our emotions, and it also affects our regulation. So with overstimulation, it leads to depression, anxiety, mood swings, and irritability.
More about that. Let's take this next report, which borders on positive thinking and mental health, put together by Oyinlola Alabi.
Parenting is a great job that requires a whole lot to get the best out of a child. As the global economic downturn takes its toll on all and sundry, many children hardly get the desired attention from their parents. This has led some children into depression and having suicidal thoughts. In order to address this trend, parents have a significant role to play.
Parents
parents, there's a lot of things we need to do. And to start with, every parent must be intentional in training and nurturing their children. If you want to penetrate into any child, you must love that child first. And if that love is not there, believe me, they will not listen to you. In our own time, despite love or no love, we listen to our parents, we obey our parents. Your child comes back from school, ask questions, communicate. Let them know that you feel what they are feeling. Today, they learn many things from the internet, how to commit suicide, how to die, and a lot of things is affecting their mindset. And if care is not taken, parents will lose it because these children are getting everything they want from the air.
Inasmuch as parents cannot rule out discipline today, children, particularly teenagers, should be handled with utmost care. Loving and encouraging words could be used to boost their self-esteem and instill positive vibes.
Abusive words can damage their self-esteem. And in order to avoid all this, we must make sure we love them. When you love a child, you will not be able to use abusive words on those children. And when you love a child, that child will understand you better. That child will be able to do the things that you ask him or her to do. And that child will see you as someone that he or she can confide in. These abusive words gives them negative attitude. And this negative attitude does not work for them, neither will it work for you. It only destroys a lot of things. Be compassionate. Be patient with them. Don't rush. Even when they make a mistake now, you don't abuse them and destroy them. Give them benefit of doubt.
Parents should be role model to the children as they are watching.
If they're not seeing what they want in you, they end up going to their peers. And these peers, they make sure they feed their friends with so many things. It took me a long time before I could break that gene for my child. Make them your friend first. If they're your friend, they will never hide anything from you.
If you have failed as a parent and you seem to have depressed children or children with suicidal tendencies, you can still win them back.
It doesn't matter how big the mistake is. It doesn't matter how strong it has been. You can still amend your ways today. God can still help you. Go on your knee and talk to God about that child. Beg him, appeal to him or her, and tell your child that you want to change too as a parent, because they are looking for a model today. So every one of us, we can still make amendments.
Parenting is quite complicated and requires a conscious effort to raise excellent children. Don't allow anything, not even the economic adversity, to hinder you from having children that will make you as well as the nation proud.
An interesting one there. I have a message here. This one says, good morning. I am RV from Port Harcourt. My wife just left me and I am going through depression right now. I need help. So you have people with different reasons for why, as to why they are feeling depressed. And I know that in 1995 we had lunacy law. That's what we're still operating with at the moment. But I also know that there is a bill, I don't know the state of the bill right now, to do with mental health and substance abuse bill, right?
Yes.
So what does this bill seek to achieve?
Our mental health bill currently needs the assent of the president, of Mr. President. I am sitting here today and pleading that Mr. President assents to our bill to become an act, so that our patients will have the best evidence-based and standard care that every other person experience across the globe. Because as it stands now, we no longer chain our patients. It is not allowed. But we still have places outside the hospital that do that. If we have our Mental Health Act now on ground, we can use that to arrest anybody. Because there's an act. And you don't have a right to treat my patients like animals. They are human beings.
Would that also lead to establishing more infrastructure, say hospitals?
Absolutely.
Hospitals in the country?
Absolutely. Now, in almost every teaching hospital, we have a department of psychiatry. In some general hospitals, we have departments of psychiatry. Not the stand-alone psychiatric hospitals, which are about 10 in all the geopolitical zones of the country. We want to destigmatize psychiatry, to include it in every sphere of the Nigerian health sector, so that it belongs everywhere, because it belongs there.
Talk to me if Nigeria has been able to domesticate some of these initiatives.
Yes. In the southwest, in the Ibadan-Lagos axis, the MH Gap Action Plan took effect over, I think, over 10 years. It's, about 7 years, because it started in 2013. It's supposed to be 2013 to 2030. So at the start of that axis has gone far. In Kaduna specifically, I know that the neuropsychiatric hospital there have commenced that using another platform, the MH Sun, which was a project that was initiated, I think, in 2012 to about 2018. There, I know they have trained a series of health workers in the 3 geopolitical zones of the state to be able to identify mental health issues in those areas, and also to train others to step down the training so that people are able to identify patients early and they refer them. In the last, I think about 3 weeks ago, a training took place in the Federal Psychiatric Hospital in Kaduna that was specific for epilepsy, where some community health extension workers were trained in the hospital, within the hospital, to be able to identify children with epilepsy so as to send them for treatment early. So those initiations have been taking place. And a lot of states have trained psychiatric nurses. Like in the psychiatric hospital in Kaduna, there is a post-basic psychiatric nursing. So they've been training psychiatric nurses across the country, where some of them are not based within the town. They are based in the local governments. So they are there, they identify, and they refer. So we have started. And I'm certain that we'll go places, even though we have limited manpower, limited resources, but we'll get there. Well, for me, nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible. Yes. What a powerful word. And of course, going forward, it's exactly what we want to tell people who are experiencing mental health or depression, that nothing is impossible. If we experience this, we can certainly get out of it with love, medication, and professional help. Yes. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We've been speaking with Dr. Aishatu Yushau Armiel. Well, it's been really long day, and of course a very engaging one, I must say, talking about depression, mental health in Nigeria. The cases is on the rise, and of course it is expected that with this awareness, with this sensitization, with this communication, talking about it, it will go a long way in helping people who are presently facing the challenge of mental health. That's much we can take on the show today. We say bye for now. Next week, we'll take a look at something different.